Hello and welcome back to Perspectives. No chirping from the smoke alarm. Well done to those of you who spotted it yesterday. I thought I got away with it, but clearly I didn't. Anyway, the battery has been changed. So, today's show, what can I bring you? Well, fancy getting involved in politics? Well, if you're a Sikh in the United States, now's your chance. As the Sikh Political Leadership Training Programme is launched, I'll give you a full rundown of this fascinating opportunity if you want to raise the profile of the Sikh community in the US. Meanwhile, here in the UK, a depressingly familiar insult from the British government to the family of Jagtar Singh Johal. And a British doctor finds himself arrested during a visit to India for insulting the BJP. Yes, it's Indian democracy in action once again. But is this once again India's evil tentacles reaching out to stifle democracy here in the West as well? And we'll show you the trailer of a great new film, the first Sikh superhero film, and it does look fantastic. Do stay tuned for all that and more indeed on today's show. And of course, at the end of the show, we'll take a look at loads of your great comments as usual, so thank you for those. Right, so let's get underway. And I'm going to start off with, if you want to get involved in Sikh politics, really now is your chance. This is coming out of the United States. And applications are now open for the TACT, as it's called, the Sikh Political Leadership Training Programme. Now, this is a comprehensive programme. It's non-partisan, so it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you sit. It's designed for Sikhs in the US who are interested potentially in running for elected office. Now, applicants must identify as part of the Sikh community in the US to be eligible for these offices in their jurisdiction, and they must, of course, demonstrate a sincere interest in running their campaign within the 2026 and 2027 election cycles. If it's too soon for you, don't worry, there is a chance for further years. But about the programme, let me show you a bit more sort of detail. I don't know if you can read that, but basically I'll quickly run through some of the key sort of details of this. I mean, TACT itself obviously means throne for those who speak Punjabi. Now, the gurus led from a seat where spiritual authority and worldly leadership were one and the same. So this is it's very symbolic, obviously, this. And when Guru Hargobind Sahib established the Akal Takht, he declared that the Panth would never wait for permission to govern its own affairs. So this programme prepares Sikhs to lead with that same conviction. This is what it's all about. Now, the training programme, it's a comprehensive, non-partisan training programme for Sikhs interested in running for elected office. It seeks to develop a pipeline for the next generation of Sikh leadership in the United States. It's designed to invite you guys from out of the audience, get involved, and to help train you and filter you and funnel you towards elected positions in the future. It's our future leaders, those who can carry the Sikh voice forward for the future. And it's a focus on individuals pursuing public service within the next this year and next year's election cycles. As I said, don't worry if it's too soon for you, but if you are eager to get involved, do get involved. And I say, those who want to get involved in future years, this programme will continue to run. So now, the core content of this training programme includes things like it will train you about campaign management, train you about fundraising, financing, public speaking even, and electoral strategy. In other words, don't worry if you think this is a little bit daunting or overwhelming. They will train you to become an elected person. They'll train you how to speak in public, how to do all the admin behind it, how to raise funds, etc., etc. So they will make sure that you are equipped and skilled enough to go forward and carry the Sikh voice democratically. Now, information and tools related to policy making you'll be trained about, such as power mapping policy research, the legislative process at all levels of government, and additional subjects like public communications, policy and equity-based leadership, community organising, and loads more. In other words, don't worry, they will train you on everything that you need to know and be capable of doing to do this job properly. Now, obviously, you must identify as part of the Sikh community in the US. You must be eligible for an elected office in their jurisdiction. In other words, you do it in your locality. And you must, of course, demonstrate a sincere interest in running for a campaign with the next two election cycles. In other words, if you're not totally committed to going for it this year or next year, don't do it now. Just wait until you're ready. You've got to be committed to do this. Now, there is a deadline, February the 27th. So you've got about a month, just over a month to get in there. Think about it, but do think about it. Do get involved. Don't forget, the Sikh issues can only be put forward in the public domain if there are voices speaking on behalf of the Sikh community. And therefore, this is an invitation. If you feel that you could have the talent, the right skills and the ability and of course the motivation to get out there and publicly campaign in an elected position, a good position, a position where you can affect things, then please do get involved. Now, in terms of eligibility, I think I've run through most of those. You must obviously identify as a member of the Sikh community. You must meet all requirements for you to run for office in your jurisdiction during these next couple of election cycles. That includes your age, your immigration status. Obviously, make sure that you're allowed to stay in the US. You have a valid visa if you're not a citizen, and residency requirements. Now, what materials are required? We ask you that you provide 3 community, professional or civic references. So in other words, you need to obviously provide some references who can speak about your character, your leadership potential and commitment to public service. So you need 3 people to help provide good references to promote you. Is this only open to members of specific political parties? No, it's not. The only requirements are that you affirm your respect for the dignity, rights and humanity of all people. You must demonstrate a commitment to democratic norms. You must believe in the concept of democracy, obviously, including free and fair elections, civic participation, and an understanding of public service as a responsibility to serve multifaceted communities with fairness, integrity, and accountability. In other words, it doesn't matter what your politics are. We don't care. You just must believe in the basic principles of democracy, and you must respect all other points of view, and you must represent all other points of view in an equal and fair manner, in other words. And in the same vein, you must reject hate, discrimination, political violence and dehumanising rhetoric in any form. And you must show a willingness to engage in dialogue across differences in good faith and with mutual respect. In other words, don't be an absolute firebrand, opinionated firebrand where you completely reject anybody else's opinion. You must, of course, be quite a diplomatic speaker. You must be respectful of other opinions and engage peacefully and respectfully in debate, open debate with people of other faith, other backgrounds, other politics, etc., etc. So it's all pretty obvious stuff. Now, is there a question, will the Sikh Coalition fund your campaign? And what other support will the Sikh Coalition provide? Of course, this is all being coordinated and run by the Sikh Coalition. The Sikh Coalition itself is a non-profit organisation. So the tax curriculum will adhere strictly to what are called 501c3 guidelines. That basically means it will focus on non-partisan electoral activities and skills. In other words, it's not allied to any one particular party, Republican, Democrat or anything else. So given these constraints, if you complete this programme, you will not expect the Sikh Coalition to endorse, fund or otherwise support their political campaign. So they are here to provide the training, but they will not then fund you or finance you or support you in any way going forward. Basically, you're on your own. But that is as it has to be. The Sikh Coalition is essentially, it's a non-profit and it has its responsibilities under the various regulations. So basically, it will train you, but thereafter you are on your own. Basically, you won't be on your own. There'll be a huge amount of support from amongst the community anyway. So, and the commitment itself, how long is this TACT, this training program? It's a 1-year commitment with virtual meetings twice a month, 2 in-person commitments. And what is expected of you after you complete the TACT? Well, in addition to fulfilling the programme itself and all the commitments of the programme, those who are accepted, you'll be asked to pay $250 to cover associated costs. It's not a huge amount. It is a lot of money, obviously, but it's not a huge amount. Bear in mind what you're getting in return. Fees can be waived for those in financial needs, so it will be means tested. If you really can't afford it, there are ways that you can avoid having to pay that. Is the programming for TACT in-person or virtual? Well, the programme will be primarily virtual, so it'll be online, but you should plan for 2 in-person gatherings in amongst that whole training. And, of course, it does say, look, if you're not ready for office yet, if you don't want to run in the 2026-2027 cycles, don't worry. If you want to run in 2028, there will be cohorts, as they call them, run in future cycles in 2028 and beyond. So if you're not quite sure yet, if you feel you're not quite ready, don't worry. But it does say email, email them at tact@sikhcoalition.org. If you feel that you are interested, you really are interested, but you're just not quite ready yet, but for future years. So in other words, just get in contact with them. And then they will get back to you pretty quickly, probably within about a month after your application to let you know if you will be successful. So really, that is a shout out. If you are involved, if you want to get involved more in politics, if you are a campaigner, if you're a grassroots campaigner who feels strongly about Sikh issues, and I know many of you are, particularly obviously in the US, if you're US based and you want to take this just a step forward, if you do want to get involved, and I thoroughly encourage everybody who feels that you have the ability, the talent to do this, do get involved. Because we can all sit back and just be wallflowers, as they call it. We can just watch other people do it. That's fine. If you're just not built for it, don't bother. But if you feel that you really do, if you're opinionated, if you feel you really want to fight on the front line of Sikh issues, to really push Sikh issues into the public domain, then this really is an enormous opportunity. This is a massive opportunity to get trained in all the skills that you would need to then go for this. I mean, this is new. This is a fantastic opportunity. How many people who enter politics never have this? They sort of go into it and they're sort of learning on the job. They really sort of bungle through it. This is going to completely train you, package you up into a complete package ready so you can go forward, go for an election, hopefully win it. And that means you are then trained and ready to hit the ground running. And you can really, really successfully push all the issues that affect the Sikh community and all the issues that you particularly care about. So do get involved, get in touch, get on the website. Sikh Coalition, they're advertising this. And get your voice heard in that democratic environment. Fantastic opportunity. Right, let's move on. Jagtar Singh Johal, again. Oh, it's so sad we have to keep coming back to this story. And again, it's another huge disappointment. Gurpreet Singh Johal, this is Jagtar's brother, Jaggi's brother. He managed to get, Jaggi's member of parliament, a guy called Douglas McAllister, in his constituency, West Dunbartonshire, did once again raise the question of his plight, his arbitrary detention in India, in the Houses of Parliament, in our British Parliament. And yesterday, 2 days ago, marked a huge milestone, 3,000 days in arbitrary detention. 3,000 days that Jagtar Singh Johal has been held under now 8 charges, still awaiting any conviction, still awaiting any sentencing. He's been held in prison for 8 years or more, 3,000 days. It's an absolute affront to any country that could call itself democratic, any country that alleges it runs by the rule of law. Of course it doesn't. So Douglas McAllister stood up in Parliament once again, as he has done, well done to Douglas, and he asked the following question once again. Here we go.
McAllister. Mr. Speaker, exactly 3,000 days ago, my constituent Jagtar Singh Johal was imprisoned in India. 3,000 days later, he remains arbitrarily detained, facing the death penalty on trumped-up charges, having been brutally tortured to make a confession. While in opposition, our Prime Minister rightly recognised my constituent's detention as arbitrary. We need to do more than just raise his case with Indian counterparts. My constituent was acquitted in March last year of all charges, but now faces essentially 8 duplicate cases based on the same evidence. So does the Foreign Secretary or the Minister agree with me this is clearly double jeopardy as recognised under Indian, international and UK law? And will the Government make that clear to Indian counterparts?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for the persistence and the force of his advocacy for his constituents. Despite progress in Mr. Johal's legal proceedings, as he says, 8 of the cases against him remain outstanding. We continue to raise concerns about Mr. Johal's prolonged detention with the Government of India at every appropriate opportunity, emphasising the need for a prompt, full and just resolution of Mr. Johal's cases within India's independent legal system.
Mr. Johal.
Now, that is an unsurprisingly disappointing answer from the Labour government once again. Every time that Douglas McAllister, or indeed any other MP, as many other MPs have done, have stood up and asked the government, what are you doing about Jagtar Singh Johal? The answer is always the same. Oh, we're raising it every opportunity. Blah, 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 blah. In other words, it's a complete non-answer. It's a meaningless answer. We raise it at every possible opportunity. Well, you might do, and actually the question is, clearly you're not. And more importantly, where are the results then? We're supposed to be the 6th largest economy on this planet. We are a G7 member. We sit at the top global table. What weight have we got if you're not even using it? This is, in other words, it's a totally pointless situation where the Labour government are doing absolutely nothing to free Jagtar Singh Johal. But what was more disappointing and more significant about this, and this is more symbolic of really the stance of the British government when it comes to Jagtar Singh Johal, when Douglas McAllister stood up to ask that question, that minister there should have been our Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, our Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, the lady who was responsible, the minister who was responsible for Jagtar Singh Johal's situation. It falls under her remit. She didn't even bother turning up. She sent a junior minister to answer the question. A junior minister whose responsibility isn't even the area, the Indo-Pacific area, the region where Jagtar is arbitrarily detained. So this guy that Yvette Cooper sent to answer Douglas McAllister's question had absolutely nothing to do with Jagtar's situation. Nothing to do even with that geographical region in his remit as a minister. How disrespectful, how insulting is that once again from the Labour government via Starmer, via Yvette Cooper, both some of the most incompetent, useless politicians this country has had the misfortune to ever have in elected position. It is an absolute outrage. And it's, as I said, it's utterly insulting to the family of Jagtar Singh Johal. Jaggy remains in prison for over 3,000 days now. And at the moment, there's still no prospect of him coming out because the British government is doing absolutely nothing to free him. It is an absolute disgrace. It's appalling. And I'm once again having to rant and rave about this because once again, I'm ashamed of our government in this country who've done absolutely nothing to free somebody who is arbitrarily detained in a nation that we've just signed a trade deal. This government, the Labour government, are very happy to crow on a regular basis how they've tied up a huge trade deal with India, and yet they've done absolutely nothing about one of our own citizens, one of its own citizens, detained against any rule of law norm. It's appalling, absolutely appalling. Anyway, hopefully one day we might have some good news to report on that, but I won't hold my breath. Let's move on. And here's another one talking about India's rule of law and lack thereof. This is a funny and interesting story. And I said in the introduction how India's rule of law is questionable in itself, how it's weaponised the law against anybody like Jagtar Singh Johal, who dares hold the Indian government to account for its misbehaviour, its misdeeds and its illegal activity. Well, this gentleman is actually an Indian. He's not a Sikh. And this is the irony of the situation. This is just to demonstrate how the Hindutva RSS forces have really taken an authoritarian control of India. They're not only trying to stifle any free speech and accountability or any democratic norms in India itself, they're now reaching out into the West, into our own nations, to try and silence people like this guy, this doctor, this Indian doctor. Whether you're in Canada, America, Europe, down under, it doesn't matter where you are, India and the RSS, its tentacles are reaching out to shut you up, and it's using every possible means to do so. What did this guy do? This Indian doctor he's got a YouTube channel, Dr. Sangram G. Patil. He's got nearly 500,000 subscribers, so he's quite an influential guy, this person. And if you go on his channel, all his videos are in, I guess it's Hindi actually. Obviously I don't understand it. Maybe our audience can interpret what that is. It's all something. It's all gobbledygook to me. Ultimately, though, one of his main themes is, of course, holding the Indian government to account. He's very anti-BJP. He has made some critical videos, critical comments on his channel about Narendra Modi and the BJP. And I've just thrown up just one random example here, one of many. And so it's been seen that if you post critical messages about the Indian government on social media, even if you live in the United Kingdom, it can lead to big problems. And in his case, a defamation case. The issuance of a lookout circular, LOC, as it's called in India, and even a potential detention at the airport. So let me talk you through what happened to this guy. He's a London-based doctor, and he's quite a popular YouTuber. As I said, he's got 500,000 followers. He's known for his criticism, of course, of the BJP. Now, he is a British citizen, just to make it clear. He is a British citizen. He's obviously of Indian descent. His wife also is of Indian descent. She's also a doctor. So they're both British doctors, but from Indian origins. And I think they're originally from Mumbai. On, excuse me, January the 10th, when they flew back to India, at an immigration checkpoint, he was stopped by officials. He was taken aside and taken to the crime branch for questioning. He was questioned for 15 hours. Now, the police clarified he hadn't actually been arrested, but he was served a notice under what's called Section 35(3) of the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, the BNSS. Under this section, police can question an individual facing minor offences but can't arrest them. He was released the same day after recording his statement. Let me just show you. This is the legislation under which he was held, not arrested, an important distinction, but he was held for 15 hours. Can you imagine? You've just done a long-haul flight back to India. You're then called aside in the airport by the officials for 15 hours. That is a huge amount of time. And this piece of legislation, I'm just going to read you this piece of legislation and how it's being weaponised by India. We talked about people like Amritpal Singh and indeed Jagtar Singh Johal, who found themselves held in detention, in arbitrary detention, effectively as political prisoners, but under nefarious legal principles, legal instruments that have been used as weapons. In other words, lawfare, as it's called. The law has been weaponised in India against people who dare raise a voice against the government. And you can start to see in context, if you imagine doing that here in the UK or in the US or in Europe, in any Western democracy, you imagine, like I have done on a regular basis, criticising your government publicly on a YouTube channel, holding it to account, saying the government are rubbish because they've done this, that and the other. You imagine then that they come for you and they hold you. They don't necessarily arrest you, but they hold you for 15 hours to question you. Yeah, those are the tactics of the Soviet Union. Those are the tactics of an authoritarian China. Those are the tactics of North Korea. In fact, North Korea would take it a step further and probably shoot you, but that's beside the point. Those are the tactics of Iran. All these regimes that we criticise on a daily basis, that we fear because of their authoritarian methods, those completely anti-democratic methods, those methods are being used today in India, a nation that calls itself the largest democracy on the planet. A democracy that has weaponised its law against political dissenters, against people who criticise its government. That is not the act of a democracy. So let me read you this. Whoever makes, publishes or circulates any statement or report containing false information, rumour or alarming news. What are the definitions of alarming news? Shocking news? Including through electronic means with intent to create or promote, or which is likely to create or promote on grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, caste or community, or any other ground whatsoever, feelings of enmity, hatred or ill will between different religions, race, language or regional groups or caste or communities shall be punished with imprisonment, which may extend up to 3 years, etc., etc. So these definitions, these legal definitions of alarming news that can create ill will, I mean, that could include anything. That is so broad that basically the BJP are using instruments like this under this broad definition to say, actually, you criticising the BJP is actually, it's alarming news, it's alarming people because the BJP are up to no good, and it creates ill feeling, ill will. I mean, ill will is a negative feeling. Ill will is, what is ill will? I feel ill will towards BJP. That makes me a criminal under this. Most of you probably have ill will against the RSS. That makes you criminals. If you go and broadcast that fact on YouTube or something, if you say something in the public domain, you are therefore, under this instrument, a criminal in India. That is why legal instruments like this are deeply, deeply dangerous. So this guy's, Patil's detention originally stemmed from a complaint filed by, surprise, surprise, a BJP functionary, a guy called Nikhil Bamre. In the complaint, Bamre, who actually handles the BJP's social media accounts, so this guy who looks after the BJP's social media, YouTube channels, etc., saw this video, made a complaint to the government, and he claimed that Patil had posted objectionable content. and it was actually posted on Facebook, the original one that was complained about, that tarnished the image of a senior party leader. So, again, you can see how ridiculous this is. This guy saw a Facebook post that he says tarnished the image of a senior party leader. So what? So what? In a democracy, we can tarnish the images of anybody, as long as it doesn't actually break the law, incite violence, or defame somebody, unjustifiably defame somebody. So if we tell the truth and we hold a politician to account, Bob Blackman, prime example, an RSS mouthpiece. If I said that in India, I'd be arrested. That is a criminal offence. I can say it here in the UK because that is freedom of speech. That is my right to say that. Okay? But you say that in India, you'll be arrested. Now, Patil, who, as I say, he's got a huge following on social media, he shared several posts criticising Modi. And in one post, without providing any background, he wrote, it is in Hindi. It translates as, "Is it right to expose the youthful mischief of a 75-year-old man? Congress should feel ashamed. They have exposed Modi." Bamre also complained against another account, Shahar Vikas Agadi. So the complaint that this guy Bamre made mentions this section 3532 of the BNSS, as I said, conducing to public mischief, false info inciting enmity, which attracts maximum 3 years imprisonment and is a bailable offence. So the Mumbai police said they took up the complaint. They agreed with it. After the initial interrogation, Patil was called for further questioning a few days later, and he said, "I submitted my response in writing." And he added that he'd informed the police about his scheduled return journey back to the UK through Mumbai airport. They reassured him that the LOC issued against him would be withdrawn. However, as he went back through the airport, just about to board his flight, he was stopped again. And that's when he learned that this LOC had been reversed. The police, however, claimed the LOC had been downgraded, but Patil is needed in India for, quote, further inquiry. So, as this sort of news spread, the British High Commission became involved. The British High Commissioner and his own MP, a lady called Claire Hughes, got involved. They're both, quote, keeping an eye on the case. And he also shared an email from Hughes's office confirming that they are in touch with the British Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, basically the Foreign Office, and exploring ways to intervene. So the British government, finally, they got off their backsides, and at least they're doing something about this guy. They're doing nothing about Jagtar, which is an outrage, but at least they're getting involved in this. But anyway, so to sum up the story, essentially, you can see if you open your mouth here in the UK, criticise the BJP, God help if you fly back to Punjab, as many of you do. I know many of you do on a regular basis, fly back to Punjab. If you're criticising Modi, the RSS and the BJP, just be careful, because we know the cowardly tactics that the RSS use through the legal instruments, whether it's the law, the police or whatever, or in this case, the airport authorities. If you become high profile, if you're a high profile critic of the BJP government, as indeed I am, I daren't fly to India, as much as I wish I could. I love India. I'm desperate to go visit and travel around Punjab, go visit the area, but I daren't because I know what will happen if I fly into India. Like this poor guy, I'll get held and detained and accused of all sorts of stuff. Who knows how long they detain me? I may end up sharing a cell with Amritpal or Jagtar. You know, it's not unlikely. I laugh, but it is quite likely. In India, in present-day India, this so-called democratic nation. So a word of warning to all of you. If you travel to India, be very, very careful, as I'm sure all of you are. Right, let's move on to something a little bit more positive and, in many ways, a little bit more exciting. This is a new film that's just been released. A trailer was released yesterday, in fact. I think it was a couple of days ago. And this is a fabulous film that's just been released. I'll show you the trailer in a moment. This is, it's headlined as an underdog story of faith and resilience. It is actually the first English language Sikh superhero movie. And it takes its next step towards a global release. So all you guys out there outside the UK, hopefully you'll get to see this at local cinemas. So do keep an eye out for its global releases. It is groundbreaking. It is the first British Sikh feature film. It's called The Ninth Master. It's unsurprisingly inspiring audiences, and the reaction across social media is really positive. It's great to see. And they had an exclusive red carpet event where the cast previewed the official trailer for the first time. Now, it's a guy based in the Midlands. We have a very large Sikh diaspora in the Midlands here in the UK. And it stars an actor, a guy called Flex Singh. There's a cool name, Flex Singh. He's made history as the first Sikh to write, direct and star basically his own film. Again, James and I said in the past, get involved. If you want to get involved in the media industry, please, there's a real shortage of Sikh-based media, Sikh directors, Sikh actors, Sikh everything, Sikh writers. Get out there. If you feel you've got a story in you, why not? YouTube. Anybody can start a YouTube channel. This is where these things start. Anyway, to get back to the story, a quick sideline, because I'm always really keen to encourage you guys to get involved, get online, get your face in front of a camera, spread the message. It's so easy to do these days. And Flex has gone and done this in a very large scale. It is an English language film. It's not Punjabi. It's English language, and it is a superhero feature film. And it is, of course, it is a landmark moment for both British cinema and South Asian representation. As I said, it's written, directed and produced and led by Singh. So it's his own project. It's a huge project. So well done to Flex for doing this. It's a massive undertaking to launch and film a film and get all the finance and everything behind it. I've been involved in small-scale things, and it's a huge undertaking to launch a film. So to do something of this scale is a massive achievement. So well done, even just getting this film out into distribution. To get to that point is an incredible story in itself. It is, as I said, it's an underdog story, both on and off the screen. It's a project built on faith, determination and gratitude. I'm sure he's very grateful to many people who contributed to all this project. In fact, he said himself, this project began as a dream to represent our community positively on a global stage. Exactly, that's why I say do get involved in these things. It blends ancient prophecy and modern London. The Ninth Master, this is the blurb that it says, explores what it means to be a hero in today's world. For decades, cinema has honoured Spartans, Vikings and samurai. Well, now it's the turn of the Sikhs. Here comes a Sikh warrior, guided not by vengeance, but by compassion, discipline and truth. Well, of course it does, but these stories are always great when they're vengeance stories. But anyway, and now alongside Flex, the movie stars other actors including Richard Chan as Kamaru and Marty Mummery as Titus, whose powerful performances bring emotional depth and balance to the story. It is shot across various UK landscapes, from mountains to city streets, and it captures, as he calls, the beauty of faith, unity and Chardi colour, of course. And as he said, representation isn't about being seen, it's about being understood. There's a key nuance there. He says the film carries the Sikh values of Seva, Nirbhau, which is fearlessness, and Chardi colour. Timeless lessons that can inspire anyone who's ever faced adversity. I absolutely, totally resonate with that. The official trailer has just been released, as I said 2 days ago, and it's followed by a UK premiere tour and worldwide release later this year. Dates, I'm sure, will be released very shortly. It is actually attracting international attention, unsurprisingly, right across the diaspora. The Ninth Master stands as what it calls a cultural milestone for British independent cinema. It really is a huge milestone. It's a great achievement. It celebrates Sikh resilience, South Asian pride, and of course the belief that courage and faith can overcome any obstacle. Well, on that note, let me play you the trailer, the long-awaited trailer. This is very exciting, and let me play it for you. Here you go.
You have to be honest with yourself. What motivates you?
My turban. It represents hope. My people protected those who couldn't protect themselves. And I carry that bloodline. The bloodline of a Singh!
The strength of the dark side is growing. And the world could be at great danger.
I will show you my power.
The world needs the Ninth Master. The world needs you, Flex.
Your job is to scrub my floor and clean my plates. I had enough of your stinky attitude all week. You're fired.
Hey, shut up, man!
Flags.
Once I raise the legendary sword and harness the power of the Ninth Master, we shall be welcomed back like heroes.
Doesn't that look great? It's an absolutely fantastic film. Cinematography looks amazing. The VFX, everything. It looks a really, really well put together film. And of course, it looks like it's got a really powerful theme running through it that really brings up the goosebumps. So do get out there when it hits your region. Get out there, support this film, go watch it. As I say, it does look like a fantastic film. So well done to Flex Singh on an amazing achievement to get this film up to where it's got so far. But do go out there, support this film, go watch this film, and certainly if it's shown near me, I'll definitely go out and see it. And if I do manage to see it, I will report on on my thoughts on that. Not that I'm much of a film critic, but anyway. So there you go. Thanks Flex, for that one. Right, let's move on to our comments section, and thank you as always to our wonderful audience. Loads of comments have poured in, as indeed they have a habit of doing. Thank you very much to all of you who've contributed. And we'll start today off. These are a couple of more comments just to finish off the editorial I did last week on the grooming gangs. Of course, that did attract a huge amount of attention, that video. A lot of comments. I would say all pretty much aligned. Hank Des says the fight has just begun. This is just basically the start of the fight back. These Pakistani men are destroying communities' families. They should all get an additional 10 years each on a retrial. I mean, basically, what you're saying is the punishment at the moment is not enough. And actually, there's been a huge movement here in the UK, not just in our ethnic minorities, but amongst the majority population of the UK, saying our judges are just not punishing these people enough. These people, these paedophiles and people who are committing these sorts of crimes are getting away with really light sentences. God forbid you write a tweet that criticises the government or a tweet that just crosses the line even slightly. You'll get 8 years or 5 years, certainly 3 years. There's been a case of a lady who tweeted something which she immediately regretted but got 3 years in prison. Some of these paedophiles get less than that. It's an absolute outrage. We've got a really skewed judicial system here in the UK, and it seems to be getting worse. So I think this comment, Hank Des, is absolutely bang on. I think it touches quite a nerve, probably with many in our UK audience. Balbir Sayan says, why the Bindranvali photo? Yeah, well, I get this comment regularly. Why on earth the Bindranvali photo? At least you've been quite polite about it. We do have a few critics who refer to him as a terrorist or whatever. Basically, you're parroting the Hindutva nonsense. Bindranvali Ji, Sant Jarnail Singh Bindranvali, is a heroic figure in Sikh recent history of the 20th century. He gave his life, he gave the ultimate sacrifice in 1984 at the Golden Temple after a monumental onslaught by the Indian government, Indira Gandhi's Indian government, for which she paid her life for that outrageous act. And Bindranvali stood for the autonomous independence of the Sikh community. He fought very hard to argue for basic human rights for the Sikh people in the Punjab. And for that, he gave his life for it. He actually gave his life in the most heroic fashion. That is why I hold him up as a bit of a personal hero, but also because he's the same for many in the Sikh community. His face and his history represents a huge foundation of 20th century Sikh history. What he stood for, how he died, what he represented is massive. That is why you see his portrait, like this one behind me, in every Gurdwara around the world, as dictated by the SGPC. So I hope that answers your question, if you're wondering why the picture of Bindranvali sits behind me. He was, essentially, we can't say outright he was a Khalistani campaigner, but he certainly believed in the principles of Khalistan. And if he had been alive today, I've absolutely no doubt he would be at the forefront campaigning for the Khalistan campaign. So that hopefully answers your question. Casing. Casing posted up a beautiful poem, actually, and I only posted up the first verse of this, and I only posted up Casing. Did you write this? And I did Google it, try and find the origin of this poem, and I couldn't find an origin, which implies that you wrote it. If you did, it is a beautifully written poem, and I hope that if you're watching this, let me know. Email me. Send me an email. And let me know if you didn't actually write it, because as I say, it's a beautifully written poem. It reflects some very important threads of Sikhi, and I would love actually even to read it out. Not that I'm a great reader of poetry, but I'd actually like to pay tribute to this poem in the appropriate manner. So let me know if you did indeed write it. Sufty Muffins, one of our regulars. Hi, Sufty Muffins. I think as Hindutva is behind these gangs, so that Sikhs use violence, and the UK government also involved to provoke Sikhs. Key word here is provoke. And Amandeep follows up, violence will affect Sikhs' long struggle from 1947 very badly. This is a message I often send out from my seat here. When you're out campaigning, that the Hindutva forces know the most effective way to undermine our campaign on all our issues is to provoke us into violence. Never, ever be provoked. If you're out campaigning, you're out in the streets, whatever, always be positive, smile. Have a very enthusiastic, positive look about you. You look at all the referenda, the SFJ's referendum, the Khalistan referendum, wherever it has, all the people there are smiling, happy, families there, they're always very positive events. They send out a very, very positive message that is covered by mainstream media. If any event, any campaign, even any protest turns violent, Hindutva will cherry pick, edit the videos to show you being violent with a Khalistan flag, and that is what flies around social media. That damages the campaign so deeply. So in other words, the message here from you guys, thank you, keep it peaceful, keep it positive, always smile, be peaceful. Do not be provoked, whether by the British government or by Hindutva, because it will only damage our campaigns. Tester. What a load of cobblers. It's a visa scam. This was about the visa. I was talking about the visa issue in the US, about the Granthis, and this campaign by the Sikh coalition, I think, is to change the law, this bill to go through to help the Granthis from stop being deported if their visa's running out whilst they're waiting for approval under various regulations to stay in the US. But what you're saying, you're completely contrarian view here, saying it's a scam. The whole Sikh community is sick of it, getting kicked out. Wow, okay. I wasn't aware of that. I'm here to be educated by you guys. If there are others in our audience who think this whole thing is a visa scam and you want these Granthis kicked out, let me know. Maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe I took the wrong side on this one. I just felt that there was an issue. Clearly the Sikh coalition and Sikh organisations think there was an issue, and they're trying to protect these guys, but clearly there is a contrarian voice. I'm always open to contrarian voices, because I'm the first to admit I'm not always right in these issues, and I only learn from you guys, so do let me know. Amakara. Yeah, this is an important point. Again, going back to the grooming gangs and the issue, particularly the Hounslow issue. The mainstream media are not covering it. Even some of the right-wing media who usually jump on these stories don't cover it. Here in the UK, we've got Talk TV and GB News, which are very right-wing news outlets, as opposed to the BBC and other mainstream, which tend to be left-wing. But nobody really covered it. Nobody certainly covered the Hounslow incident. Why not? But the Govt media did. And yeah, and this is interesting. And it's interesting because we've got to be careful here, because it's very easy for all of us and the Sikh community to fall into a trap here. Because, of course, it's anti-Islamic. It's not anti-Islamic, the whole Islamic population. It is anti a small community, a small part of the Islamic community. And therefore, this is why the Govt media cover it, because ultimately they view it as anti-Muslim, anti-Islam. It's not anti-Islam. This is the nuance. We're not anti-Islam. We're anti these people. And sadly, it is a large part of the Islamic community. These grooming gangs do feature in this. And I said it's not exclusive to Islam. It's also Hindus. But the Govt media are covering it because they're loving it, because it's whipping up anti-Muslim hatred. And this is where, again, we've got to be careful not to fall into this trap, because the Sikh community actually has great relations with the Muslim community, and indeed with many other communities, because that is what the Sikh community stand for. We're all seen as equals. We respect each other's faiths, but we are equally angry, and will always target and stand up against those who abuse human nature, the grooming gangs, etc., those who abuse our young girls. Doesn't matter what your background is, we will always, and those guys out there, Share Punjab, Sikh Youth UK, SAS, whoever it happens to be, these guys are out there, and they will always fight against these people, and they will be deeply anti-grooming gangs. But you've got to be careful. It's not necessarily anti-Islam, although there are some in the Sikh community who are anti-Islam. That is your prerogative, and I've seen it in Sikh groups, absolutely, and there is a lot of evidence to support the arguments that they put forward. But we are not anti-Islam. We have to be very careful what we say here. But as you say, But even the Govt media were clever here because, they were very happy to show the videos of the what it claims was the Khalistanis. It's in fact, as Amakara says, the groups that are involved, Sikh Youth UK, Shia Punjab, are pro-Khalistani groups. But the Govt media did report it, but the headline was, "Why are Khalistanis silent?" In other words, they're saying, look how evil these Muslims are in the UK. And well done for the Sikhs for going after the grooming gangs, but it's Muslims, evil Muslims. And notice how the Khalistanis are quiet about this. Sikhs are doing it, but the Khalistanis aren't saying anything about it. Well, of course not. As Amakara points out, well, of course they're not. You don't go to one of these things carrying a Khalistan flag. These groups, Sikh Youth UK, Shia Punjab, are pro-Khalistan. There's no ambiguity there. They are pro-Khalistan groups. But, as Amakara points out, you don't go to a sting with a paedophile carrying a Khalistan flag. It's not about a Khalistan campaign or Khalistan protesting. They're going to catch groomers. In other words, what absolute nonsense. But again, it highlights the point of how the Govt media cherry picks these things and always spins it into their own narrative. Anti-Khalistan, anti-Muslim. And they've used even this story to somehow rephrase it, reframe the Hounslow story. Firstly, it being, look how much the Muslims are hated in the UK, and look, not being precise about it. They're saying all Muslims are hated in the UK, and look how the Khalistanis are clearly supporting the groomers because they're not saying anything about it. What nonsense. But there you go. We point out the misinformation on a daily basis. Expose Hindu for terrorists. Clown Carney can't secure his own country from the Indian government. Absolutely, he's not protected. It's a theme we talk about regularly. You're absolutely right. Carney is a clown. He can't even protect his own Sikh population. No, it's not about can't. He won't. That is the distinction. Carney won't protect his Sikh community. That is the key difference there. It's all about will. Satnam Khalsa. This is a good question. I've asked it myself many times. How on earth did Starmer, the British Prime Minister, become a Sir? He is a hopeless Prime Minister. Absolutely, totally, fully endorse his comment. Our honours system here in the UK is rubbish. It's nonsense. People get honoured with OBEs, Order of the British Empire, CBEs, Commonwealth, something or other. I've got to remember what it stands for. They become sirs, they become dames, baronesses. We award these honours to high-profile public individuals for service to our country, to our nation. And in reality, it's nonsense. It's a completely nonsense, corrupt system. I think one of our former prime ministers gave an honour to, was it his or her? I forget, to their hairdresser. The person who'd been doing her hair got an honour. I mean, do me a favour. Actors get honours just for doing their job. Many people get these honours just for doing their job. Not for doing anything above and beyond, but just for literally doing their job. Anyway, the honours system here in the UK has absolutely no respect amongst the general population. They think it's complete nonsense because it's all about corruption. It's cronyism. It's awarded by prime ministers at the time, these honours. They decide who gets them. And of course, they award them to their mates, their friends, people who've helped them behind the scenes, And only on very rare occasions do people actually genuinely get given one on merit. It's cronyism. And likewise, Starmer got one. Why? I refuse to call him Sir because, in my opinion, he doesn't deserve it. And I have no respect for the system like most British people. We have no respect for the system. And even in public, if I had to meet the unfortunate experience to meet Starmer, I wouldn't call him Sir. I would not give him that respect. As regular viewers know, I have absolutely zero respect for probably, as you rightly say, I hope as Prime Minister, the worst Prime Minister in British history. So I hope my feelings are very clear on that one. Critty's Corner is back, and not just back, but Vinnie Chorn. Welcome back, Vinnie. We haven't seen you for a long time. Thank you for coming back on the channel and throwing in a good old criticism. This old Gora will say anything for money. No, I won't. Well, actually, it depends how much. We'll have a price, but ultimately, no. Thank you for your comment. And I think actually you probably said it before, but and I've probably addressed it before with the same old. But Amakira and Amandeep come back on my behalf, as you rightly say. Maybe I'm just talking the truth. What's important? More important. He's an honest journalist. Yeah, I am. I'm honest. I'm here. Yeah, I get paid a tiny tidy amount to be here. I've got to make a living at the end of the day. I've got to feed myself and keep a roof over my head and pay the bills for the lights somehow. But ultimately, I'm here for a reason. That's because I believe in what I say. I am totally motivated by what I talk about. My job as a journalist is to bring the truth. And that's what I'm here for. And if you say I will say anything for money, yeah, we'll all say anything for money if the price is right. You offer me £100 million, I'll say anything. Absolutely, I will. But anyway, that's beside the point. But ultimately, I am motivated more by principles than money. Is the simple answer. But anyway, it's great to see you back, Vinny. Thanks for coming back, and do feel free to drop in again another time. S. Baines, a bit more seriously now. The Sikh Panth. It's always been proactive to meet challenges that it comes across. But, and this comes back to the point that I made the other day, have we indeed reached the end of political advocacy? Have we actually got as far as we can politically? Basically, are we at a point where we just can't change things? No matter what we do, we cannot change. We cannot persuade those in the elite circles to protect and take care of our Sikh community. But as you say, and this is where it starts getting interesting, the world is changing. And I said this before, and I'll say it again this year. And I predicted this last year. I said the first half of this year will bring about massive change. There's a lot going on. And the first half of this year, we'll see huge change. As S. Baines says, India's days are numbered. The world is entering different spheres of influence. India has none. China and the US have no interest in India. I don't think it's strictly true, but yes, I get the point. I think India has dropped down the rankings in terms of its strategic importance. Geographically, yes. Politically, no. India has no defence, and we, the Sikhs, must help in hastening that demise. As you say, there is pressure now coming from other bigger players, China and the United States. They're now looking at India, and they feel these sort of pressures, as you say, to punish India. And that punishment, of course, is going to look at India and say, maybe it is better to break India up. So we must all, in this new great game that's unfolding with Donald Trump and everything, and I may well do an editorial on this whole subject about Khalistan tomorrow. But ultimately, yeah, the world is changing. As I said before, Donald Trump has an agenda, a tactic, a very clever tactic, and it really scares people, that he creates chaos. He breaks the bonds. He creates chaos in order that he can reshape it in a new form. That's how he brings about change. India is a great example of this. India is ripe for breaking all those bonds, this artificial construct of India, where somebody like Trump or even China can come along, apply just enough pressure to break all those bonds, to create that chaotic breakup of India and reform it into a different shape. In other words, a federal union of independent states like the European Union. So Khalistan could ultimately come out of this. I often talk about the catalytic events. Well, India is it's ripe. It is a prime target for something like this to happen. It just takes one catalytic event. It just takes Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, or whoever to take a look at India and think, you know what, it actually serves our purpose going forward, our strategic purpose, to break up India. It does serve our purpose to have a friend on that continent in the form of Khalistan that we can essentially use as our beachhead in that region. And of course, China is, we do know, a potential enemy in decades in the future, God help us, but sadly that it probably is the reality. So the West does need a beachhead in that region. India is not a reliable ally, but Khalistan certainly would be. So you can start to see how all these pieces start to become important in this whole great game. So yeah, as you say, S. Baines, yeah, we're entering very interesting times. Final set, excuse me, a bit of a winter chill again. SSK trucking. Always good to hear from you, Scott. Well, SSK Trucking, it is always good to hear from you. And it is always good to hear from all our regulars. Thank you for all your comments. As I say, many regulars do comment on a daily basis. And I read them all. And I do appreciate all the effort. I know so many of you put so much effort and thought into your comments. And they are appreciated because, as I say, I can't do this show without you guys. And it's always great to have this sort of feedback and this back and forth conversation between you guys. Sadly, I can't have you in the studio, much as I wish I could. And if you do want to be in the studio, let me know. Drop me a message. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have some actual Zoom calls with you guys. You can bring you on the show. We can talk about topics together. Send me a message if you genuinely want to get involved. That is serious. K Singh says, this is an interesting comment. Finally, this show becomes worth watching. No more Catholic pablum. Now, I wasn't quite sure what you meant by no more Catholic pablum. I tried to interpret that, and I can't really work out what was it before that you interpreted as Catholic pablum. I don't know. I'm not a Catholic, but who knows? But it seems that you say, finally, this show is becoming worth watching. Well, I'm glad you believe so. Let me know. Again, send me a message, send me an email if you want to give me a bit more specific feedback on why you think and what hopefully I'm doing right and what you'd like to see more of. But yeah, it's interesting. I hope it is worth watching. Sadly, we missed James, but ultimately I'm taking the show forward. Maybe we'll get James back one day, fingers crossed. But yeah, as I say, this show is shaped very much by you guys. And you let me know what you want me to talk about. You let me know what you like to hear and what you don't like to hear. I do need that feedback to keep evolving the show into something that, as you say, it makes a show that is worth watching. So thank you, Kasing, for all your comments. You've made a lot of comments that have all been appreciated. Bachchan Kaur Bachchan. I love you, Khalistan, Punjab. Indeed we do. Sikhs for Justice, Zindabad. Kisan Hal, Khalistan vote. And the last word of the show goes to the voice of the Punjab, Khalistan Zindabad, and even USA Zindabad. Why not? Let's throw that in there as well. We need USA's support. We need the administration of the United States to support the whole concept of Khalistan, as I believe it may well do, to get it over the line. That is our goal, and that is what we're all united, hopefully, in pushing towards that whole establishment of a new Sikh sovereign nation. And Khalistan Zindabad indeed. But that is it for Perspectives for another day, and indeed Perspectives for another week. As I say, there will hopefully be an editorial that I will upload tomorrow. Do keep an eye out for that. But thank you for all your support. Thanks for all your comments. Do let me know your thoughts. Do let me know your perspectives. You can email me directly at message@satlugetv.com. And I do get those emails and I do read every single email. So thank you very much indeed for all the stuff that you've been sending in. Send me links if there's something that you think is interesting that might be worth me investigating or that you'd like me to cover on the show. Otherwise, just send me a message to say hi. Always very much appreciated. But do let me know in your comments, but in the comments beneath the videos, your thoughts, your perspectives, likewise. But that is it for another day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your loyalty. I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow.